I know you got a lot of thoughts about accreditation. So do I. Maybe talk through just like the accreditation laws, why maybe it actually makes sense to have some sort of barrier to investing, but also what some of the detrimental impacts of the specific laws that we have today are.
Yeah. You and I have interacted on this topic on Twitter a bit in the past. I mean, I think our accreditation laws are just archaic. I understand the genesis of them. In principle, the idea of requiring certain disclosures and understanding of what you're investing in prior to the investment makes sense. I get that. But the way it's applied is so absurd, almost asinine in America right now. I mean, the fact that I can I can't invest in my buddy's startup. He's starting some company, but I can invest in a XXX levered mortgage ETN on Robinhood, or I can go, like an 18-year-old can go lever up and buy a bunch of call options on Robinhood. And, just that does not make any sense, right? Like it's hard to sit down and say that that's logical. And so that's what I really take issue with is like, if you have a system, I get it, but it needs to make sense broadly. It can't just, be focused in a certain area where you can't really figure out what the rhyme or reason is behind it. I don't. What do you think about it? I'm curious.
I just think it violates the American dream. Like the whole promise of the American dream is that no matter where you come from, what language you speak, the color of your skin, your race, your religion, your wealth status, your education level, anything, you can come to this country and you can make a living for yourself, and you can pursue a life of, kind of happiness and economic prosperity.
Yeah,
we should probably do everything we possibly can to allow that to happen, and putting a kind of gate in front of some of the best investments. By saying, hey, if you're not wealthy, you're not smart enough to underwrite this, seems like, maybe there's a better way. Which, my question back to you is like, what is the better way? If you're given full carte blanche, powers, what do you do to fix it?
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. The whole idea of like using wealth as a proxy for intelligence is absurd. And we've seen over the last few months, right? Like the system has changed. And what wealth cannot be used as a proxy for intelligence, point blank, period. How do you fix it? I personally think you need to make the barriers to everything much lower. I'm personally just pro, allowing markets to work and the democratization of all of this stuff. I think like Matt Levine, who's one of my favorite writers on the internet, he writes money stuff for Bloomberg. It's an amazing newsletter if you're not subscribed. He talks about the I am stupid letter, which it's very tongue in cheek, but it's a funny idea where you basically have to click and check a box that says, I understand this is a risky investment and I am likely to lose all of my money on it. And you acknowledge it, you read it, you acknowledge it, and then you're able to make the investment. And I actually think, all jokes aside, it's an interesting way of getting at it, where you're forcing the person to acknowledge that it's a risky asset class. And that should apply to a XXX levered mortgage ETN or a GameStop call option the same way it should to my friend who's starting a restaurant startup or whatever it might be. But if you force people to have that moment of kind of recognition of the risky nature of the investment, you have to allow people to, take care of themselves, right? It's like survival of the fittest in some sense, where I don't think the government's role is to be out there trying to protect people in a weird, non-standardized way by placing accreditation in front of certain asset classes and not in front of others.
Yeah, I think Europe has something where it's basically you can say, hey, I'm educated and therefore I'm willing to take much more risk. And basically there's no protections, go wild, you're a cowboy, but you said that you were educated and so it's your fault, if you mess up. Or you could say, hey, I'm not educated, like basically put, it's like bowling, put up the bumpers so that I make sure I don't, throw the gutter ball. What I think is a fascinating conversations, if we accelerate this and we say, okay, the problem gets solved. Eventually now every market is democratized. democratized, right? Public markets are basically already democratized. If yes, you have to get an account. Yes, you have to kind of go through some hoops. But if you are able to do that, then yes, you can participate in the market regardless of status or wealth. But the private markets, it seems like those would be the ones that would be most kind of materially impacted. How would that change the private market? Would a bunch of dumb ideas go get funded? Would just the returns get more distributed across, kind of the investor base? Like, how do you think the private market changes with the democratization of that market?
I mean, personally, I think democratization leads to more efficient markets. You have everyone able to participate. And so like the supply and demand sides of these markets become more efficient broadly. Again, I'm a free market guy. Like this is what I believe in. But when you put up regulations in front of things, that creates issues in markets. We know this. This is like basic economics. And so, if you create an environment where you allow people to invest, when they acknowledge they understand the risks of something, but you allow them to invest in it, I don't think anything changes for the worse. Maybe some people lose their money on speculative investments and then they don't do that investment the next time because they've learned from it or they have a risk tolerance around it. But it just doesn't make sense fundamentally that like we're not going to put that in front of a call option on GameStop, but we are going to put it in front of a investment in their friend's restaurant startup. It doesn't make sense. And there are platforms now that are, doing this already, right? Like Fundrise allows you to invest in real estate as an asset class, which was previously only for accredited investors. AngelList, I think, is making progress on this for non-accredited investors. There's real progress being made. But the basic thing is let's open up all of these asset classes to everyone. We shouldn't live in a world where the wealthy get to invest at higher returns, get lower cost of capital overall and just accrue their wealth in an incredible way as a result of these advantages that exist. I believe we should live in a world that has an even playing field, at least from an opportunity standpoint. And that doesn't mean that everyone is going to take advantage and work as hard as they need to and go after things the way they need to become, extraordinarily wealthy. But it does give everyone the opportunity to do that. And again, back to the point of opportunity being evenly distributed, that's what the end goal should be for society, in my view. And so this all gets to that.